what's an area in your marriage that you've been avoiding lately?
Maybe it's an issue that you just don't want to talk about because you feel like maybe it'll open a can of worms, or it's just like we hear that comment, that's a hill I don't want to die on, and so you just stuff it, you push it under the rug, sweep it under the rug.
And then you walk around the rug.
And so all these reasons actually point to someone feeling powerless over the situation. And so they choose not to talk about it because they feel dominated by their partner. They don't feel like they can win. And so we're going to talk about that cycle today and how to break that cycle.
So first, let's address the myth of just letting it go. This is a little bit more of an extreme example, but I was working with a couple, and the man had a history of pornography use, and his wife spotted something. She had a suspicion. It could have been nothing, but it also could have been something. And they were supposed to go on a date, and she didn't want to ruin the date. And so what she did is stuffed it and wasn't able to talk about, or didn't feel that she wanted to talk about it, and stuffed it under her rug. And of course, this ended up, these sort of things appear on your face. They show through your demeanor that you're going through something, and he didn't know what was going on, but
he sensed tension,
right? And so of course this caused that tension. It caused something's not right. Why don't you tell me? And nothing, and of course that never helps. So, and this is just she's avoiding the conflict, potential conflict. It could be nothing, but because of this, there's tension in the marriage, and there's tension in the conversation.
Right.
So it's something that needs to be talked about.
Yes. Another example of avoidance, or just letting it go in an effort to, not cause tension, is this very common dynamic we see in marriages where maybe the male wants sexual intimacy, but the female doesn't. And so, there's this tension where the husband might drop a hint here and there. Yeah. It's kind of a passive-aggressive thing, but he's not going to directly ask for what he wants or needs. He'll just avoid it instead. And, they may or may not be intimate that night, but if he can at least express his desire and not avoid it, she will have an opportunity to respond. They can have a beautiful conversation about it. She might have some desire as well. And who knows where that could go, but at least they're being open and vulnerable. It could also be an opportunity for them to solve something if there is a conflict that has to do with his request.
Right. And this goes back to this, if you avoid it, he's going to start having feelings, or if he avoids talking about it, he's going to start feeling controlled. So he has this desire, he doesn't feel like he can talk about it, so he starts feeling controlled by his partner, because his partner is controlling his ability to feel those emotions, right?
Right.
And so he feels dominated, and the more he feels dominated, the more frustrated he gets, of course, and that leads to more avoidance sometimes.
When you feel controlled by someone, you put a wall up and you back away from them, you withdraw, you isolate yourself. And so it's this cycle, and we drew it out for you for a visual, but it's this cycle that the more you avoidance equals feeling dominated or powerless or controlled, and feeling dominated, powerless, or controlled equals more avoidance. And it's just this negative cycle. It goes on and on and on.
And enough of this happens, and you get an explosion. You have the big blow-ups. You have the big arguments.
Yeah.
Because you have so much built up, and then everything goes, just blows up in your face.
Right.
And there's so much there to talk about or argue about. You're really not solving the issue. You're talking about all of these things that are connected generally.
So how do we interrupt the cycle? That's the next question. How do we stop this avoidance, feeling dominated and controlled avoidance, and just start anew? So how do we do that?
The first step to this is simply expressing your needs.
Yeah.
It's assertiveness, asking for what you want in a way that she'll hear you. Because if I do it with some criticism in my voice or contempt, in my voice, or I do the typical more guy thing, right, of stonewalling to get attention from her so that she feels the coldness on the other side of the table. All those options are highly toxic.
Yeah.
So I need to be able to say, hey, I really need this, and give her the opportunity to reject it or have a conversation about it. But she can't read your mind, so allow your spouse to know what you're thinking.
And ladies, he can't read your mind. And
shocker, right?
So often we tend to romanticize. You've heard us say that before. Women want their husbands to just know them inside and out and read their mind. And that's not the way things work. So. Well,
because asking for a gift in a lot of people's mind it takes away from the gift itself, right? So if I ask for flowers, then it's not as nice getting them. But if you want something, you have to stand up for it.
Yes.
And you have to say it nicely, but you have to stand up for what you need.
And so if you can interrupt the cycle by just asking for what you need in a kind way, take the stance of being on the same team. Hey, babe, there seems to be this tension. I really need blank from you. And then give a feeling as well. Maybe I'm feeling a bit blank. And if, we were able to work through this by doing blank, then I would feel more at ease, or I would feel less stressed. Or you can even tell him, my temptation right now is just to avoid this because I don't want to open a can of worms. But I know that's not healthy. And so I want to just be vulnerable and share with you what I need from you. And so take that stance of being on the same team and work towards solving the issue.
Now, within this whole conversation, we have to also keep in mind that a lot of our arguments aren't solvable things.
Yeah.
So the solvable, we can, be on the same team, we can brainstorm, we can come up with a solution. But some of the things that we argue about constantly are, I don't know, about family, about
differences of opinion, just the way maybe we were brought up. Yeah. We have different ways of doing things, different
partner styles and habits. So all of this, there's a lot of things that we can't just wave our wand and fix it.
Personality is a big one.
Yeah,
personality, it's a pervasive pattern over a lifetime. You're not going to change your partner's personality. So if one of you wants more social time and the other doesn't, because one of you is fueled by that, you're extroverted, the other one's introverted, you're not going to change that about your partner.
Yeah. So just remembering that you can't fix all these situations. So when you can't fix it, if it's in one of those unsolvable categories, then we need to try for understanding and empathy. Try to put yourself in the other person's shoes. How do they feel about this? And then we strive for understanding.
We heard this recently, and we felt like it kind of summed up everything that we're conveying in this video. And it said that peace is not the absence of conflict, but it's the ability to cope with it. And so that's what we're hoping that you take away from this, is that avoidance is not the answer for peace.
Marriage is a constant balance of asking for what you need and managing that conflict, managing the differences.
Yeah.
So if we can learn to do that well, we can have a really beautiful marriage.
There's actually been studies that have shown it's not the number of conflicts that you have that determines how happy you are. Like maybe if you have fewer conflicts, you're happier. That's actually not the case. Studies show that it's how those conflicts are handled that determine how happy you are. So happier couples don't necessarily argue less. They just argue well.
It's a skill.
Yeah.
So if you have something that you keep in mind when you're arguing, let us know in the comments. We'd like to hear from you and learn from you and have a conversation. So God bless you, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
All right. Bye-bye.